Welcome to the Open Mic Podcast Show with Mike Midgley.
Hey, and welcome to the Open Mic Podcast. On today's episode, I'm excited to be covering the topic of target audience engagement. Today's influencer guest is Troy Ritchie from Boom Intelligence Group, and Troy is based out of Henderson, Nevada, just close to Las Vegas. Welcome to the show, Troy. It's an absolute pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure as well. Thank you, Mike.
No, it's super excited. We were just talking off camera there about how close you can see the strip from there.
That's
so
right.
You're looking forward to a big weekend in Las Vegas there as well. Right. So I think overall, when we look at it, listeners, as entrepreneurs out there, what are we trying to do? We're trying to grow. We're trying to get traction. We're trying to differentiate. We're trying to do all these things. But often, not understanding, audience engagement, and, we can all push stuff out there. This is a super detailed podcast. Troy's an absolute, legend when it comes to this type of stuff. So I really want you to sort of take a look at what the work, the workshops, the training that Troy does. You can pick up and connect with Troy, but please don't pitch him, else he'll move you on a little bit like I do. It'll be a pitch and say goodbye if you pitch him afterwards. But you can check out Troy on LinkedIn. If you head over to linkedin.com/in/Troy Ritchie, and that is TROYRITCHIE. We'll put those in the show notes along with Instagram and Twitter handles at Know Troy. You can also head over to his website, TroyRitchie.com, and TroyRitchie.com/speaking. You can also search the social channels out there for Troy Ritchie or Know Troy or 4 a.m. DWU, and we're going to find out a little bit more about these Whiteboard Wednesdays and podcasts that Troy does at 4 a.m. and things like that. But before we get started and learn a bit about that crazy journey and why that came to that, we all have one. Let's just sort of learn a little bit more about you and give the viewers a little bit of an inside sort of track on you. Audience engagement expert. How did you get into that space, Troy, really? I mean, was it by accident, like a lot of opportunities do, or was that something that you always were fascinated with? Tell us a little bit more about what attracted you to do it and how you got involved.
Yeah, and I'll start with this. I'll tell you my future. My future is in film. Right. I plan on making movies. Amazing. And I've always had this bridge. What do I do in the meantime? And so in my 20s, I was in a rock and roll band. Wow. And we were independent, never got signed, and we traveled all across the United States. And what I realized quickly is we were not the most talented band at all. So we had to do things differently to keep the audience's attention, right? Yeah. And so when we'd go to festivals, the one thing I realized is I am not a musician, because the musicians would be up there, extremely talented, playing their licks on their guitars, and the audience is bored to death. Yeah. And I would talk to these musicians, and they would say, "Hey man, it's my music. It's all about my music, and it comes out of me." And I'm like, nobody cares. They're bored. So that was in my 20s, and then getting into my 30s, and so at 33, my wife and I had our first child, and she comes home and says, "I want to be a stay-home mom." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not part of the deal. Remember, I go on the road and tour, and you stay home, make lots of money. What's going on here?" So I had to shift from, music became more of a hobby at that point. Yeah. We have 4 kids now, and so I do little Christmas gigs from here and there. And what I took with me from the entertainment space was my inabilities, my lack of talent, and what do I do to make sure that audience is keeping to my attention. And when I shifted to business, I realized I'm pretty good at sales. Yeah. I'm not a sales guru. No. My expertise in sales is that I hear what that audience is saying, and then I communicate through a story, maybe a song lyric from the years past, but so that's how it came about, because a lot of people will look at me as a sales guru. And every time I teach someone in sales my methods, they outsell me 2 to 3 times. So I kind of coined the phrase of audience engagement expert. Yeah,
and it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you look at what I'd call the arts. A lot of people are so self-invested in their own product, their output, their music, their paintings, their jazz, or whatever it would be. And often they miss the fact of, it's a talent, it's an art, but you have to make a living out of this. And, I was speaking to a guy on the podcast a while ago, and he's a big Grateful Dead band fan. And obviously the Grateful Dead had an amazing loyal following. They don't stop you filming in concerts, and they do things so different. And, to go from that mindset shift from, hey, it's in the Music Man, through to something like the Grateful Dead or other very, very successful bands, then ultimately there has to be something, and you've got to keep them interested and keep them coming back to concerts, or keep them buying records, or keep buying downloads these days, T-shirts. And then, so many people miss the point. And I suppose it goes back to the great saying, doesn't it? Nobody buys what you do; they buy the problem that it solves, or the solution that solves the problem, which is great. When we talk about that sort of course that you've sort of created, it's brand new, and I thought it was a spelling mistake to start with, because even though I know it, when I'm doing the research, I thought, brand new, is this brand new? And I said to my researcher, is this brand new? She was, no, and then I get the brand new. And then there's also something that we talk about, uniqueness, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So tell us a little bit more about that course of what you've done, so the entrepreneurs who are listening, they can sort of get an understanding of it.
Yes, believe it or not, it started out originally with a course called Pitch Free Closing. Yeah. In other words, nobody likes a son of a pitch. Yeah. And we live in a switching economy. Somebody coined the phrase switching economy, where we as consumers can go wherever we want. Yeah. We don't need you as a salesperson to give us your pitch, because we can go research it online on our own. Yeah. And so I put this course together. It's my side hustle. I put the course together. I started meeting with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs here in the Las Vegas area. And I quickly realized that I could not help them because there was an identity crisis with who they were. Yeah. And if you don't know where you're headed or where you're going, I can't help you, because you can't identify your target audience. That's it. Some folks want to go the celebrity route. That's great. If you go on YouTube and you get millions of followers, that's awesome. But that's not me helping you or me coaching you. And so I went back to the drawing board and said, how can I help these drifting entrepreneurs that know what they do, they know why they do it, and they don't know who they are. Yeah. Right. And so
mixed messaging coming all over, isn't it? And if they don't know who they are, how on earth does their customers know who they are, type of thing? We see it so many times.
And there's a deeper issue where it's there's a lonely feeling. They feel out of place. I think it was Einstein that coined the phrase of, if your genius is in being a fish and you're trying to climb a tree, everyone calls you stupid. And so I went back into more self-mastery in who are you? And what is it that you want to do? And the question that sparked these conversations with these solopreneurs and entrepreneurs is, are you happy? Yeah. And not a lot of them could say that they were happy. No. So I went back to the drawing board and read a lot of books. I do read a lot of books, and just kind of came up with this idea of, before you get into storytelling, because I have this gradual storytelling to story selling method. Let's identify who you are. Let's put mindset's important, 100%. Let's dig deep into what gives you joy. Well, Troy, I don't know. Yes, you do. What gives you joy, where time stands still, you put a smile on your face. And so I go into talking through them, through that journey of just self-discovery and just identifying. Amazing. Once they get who they are, now let's talk about what you do. Yeah. And I disagree with Simon Sinek. I think why is number 3. Right. You need to know who you are. You need to know what you do. And then once your audience knows the who and the what of what you do and who you are, now you get into the why, because the why is important as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it's different perspectives. I mean, I know we're going to talk about your podcast in a moment or two and things like that. You get to speak about various ranges of subjects and different type of peoples. And the great thing about it, nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. It's a different perception. It's a different viewpoint. I've got a viewpoint, not on the why thing, but just slightly off script here about, I suppose, my industry and what makes me joy. And believe it or not, it's strategy. Although the best part of the week is doing the open mic, because I get to meet people all around the world. But take that out of it. that's me being a public servant for my audience, I suppose, to a degree, if you see the podcast. But for me, strategy is what makes me happy, because I see so many people trying to raise money, trying to launch new products, and on poor foundations. So strategy precedes everything. Once we get the strategy right, we can transfuse that into a plan. From a plan, you can execute it, and then you can start to see tangible results. And you're right. So, and I've had people say to me, Mike, that's horse, poop, whatever. That's just my view. I've grown my businesses, I've exited them, I've lost a business, I've done everything based on that philosophy. And when you believe in it so passionate and you can tangibly put results down, like I say, for those of, for the listeners out there, maybe you can shoot us a message using the hashtag #TheOpenMic. Do you think wise first? Wise at the end? Do you think strategy is horse? It doesn't really matter. The point is that you get a traction, you get a direction, and like you say, you're happy about what you're doing. You're doing your best possible work. Everybody on YouTube and everybody who's written a book is not always right. That is for sure. I think that there's too many people say, "Well, he's an author." Who cares? It's just his viewpoint of it. Oh, she's done this. Well, okay, that's great. And so I'm with you all the way on that, Troy, for sure. But you're right. Tell us a little bit more. Troy's dedication is pretty immense and probably a lot greater than mine. He's the host of the 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up Micro podcast, 2-minute Whiteboard Wednesday video session, and Always Go Big interview podcast. Tell us a little bit about each. What's the motivation and the topical, and why the listeners should tune into those, Troy?
Yeah, well, it really started with a tragedy, as all good stories do start with a tragedy. Yeah. I was promised some things in January of 2018 that did not come to fruition, and was laying in the fetal position for a weekend. I'll never forget, my daughter was going to the mall, and I asked her to get me a Cinnabon, which is like, off limits. And she remembers that. She'll remind me of that. Remember when you told me to get a Cinnabon? Because I don't really eat that type of food. And it was having that large amount of funds to come in. I'm not going to get too personal with it. Of funds to come in, not come in. We were at a financial hardship.
Yep.
And our dog was an elderly dog. And we were talking about, should we put him down? And my wife was really connected with this dog. And so we were out of dog food. Something simple as being out of dog food. And she said, we need dog food. And I didn't know if I should buy the big bag or the small bag because we might put him down. So I asked my wife, I said, and we were tight on money. Yeah. So when I asked my wife, I said, what size bag? I had no intention of being argumentative. And she said, we'll just put the dog down already. And she was very upset. And I was upset about our situation. The pet store was next to a library.
Right.
And I was so angry with my life. And, I believe library is a university if you take advantage of it. And I'm walking through the library and I passed by this book on the spine, it said, Start, Punch Fear in the Face. I grabbed that book. I grabbed 3 or 4 others, all self-help.
Yep. And
I just started reading and reading and reading. And in a couple of weeks after that experience, the same situation I was in, they took away my ability to generate content for the organization. And I'll never forget the meeting. I slammed my fist on the table and I said, you can't stop me from doing LinkedIn. And that's when LinkedIn first came out with the video. And I follow Shay. I think she was a guest of yours.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Amazing. And a lot of them came out of Milwaukee. So I do hashtag Milwaukee Magic, right? And so I'm following these content creators. They're a lot younger than I am.
Yeah, me as well. I've got the gray. I feel like the dads some of the time. They're doing so well. They're so well, so young, and they're doing amazing. And a big shout out. In case you missed the episode, there's a podcast with the Open Mic called with Shay Rowbottom. And if you want to know how to crush video on LinkedIn, go check out shayrowbottom.com. Amazing. And if you listen to Shay, you do an awesome job. And sad stories about Shay's background there with depression and things like that as well, and how she channels that through and delivers an amazing moment. It's totally off script there, Troy, so I apologize. But no. Have to shout her out.
Yeah, and so when they took that away from me, I didn't have a release. Now I don't do music anymore, and I'm in my bridge to film. So I saw these the Shay Rowbottoms and Q and Jackie and Sam Lister doing video. And I said, you know what? I can do that. I've got the personality. But I need a pattern. I need something. And so I came up with a 2-minute whiteboard Wednesday. And that is every Wednesday. And it's mainly for those in sales roles or companies in a one-to-many trying to get, I call it story selling or pitch free closing or in is how to engage an audience, whether it's public speaking or whether it's through other means. The 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up micro podcast, I joke with people that I'm the Seth, Godin of podcasting, because he does a daily blog. I just don't know, man. I volunteer at the Clark County School District. It's a very low hope, high truancy district. And I just, with this identity crisis that we have, I'm assuming in the world, it's here in the U.S. The 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up micro podcast is no agenda. It's a very broad audience. It's just about who you are and that daily wins. So it's important to have daily wins. I wake up in the 4 a.m. hour because it's hard. There's no other reason. And when I wake up in the 4 a.m. hour, it's a check of a win. I take cold showers. It's very hard. I don't like taking cold showers. But it's a win. It's a competition with myself. And I tell these students, the key to happiness is winning. Look at sports teams. They win. And this isn't me. I read in a book that when you set up controllable tasks, don't set up a task that you can't control. And when you defeat that task, even something as simple as waking up at 4 a.m., instead of snoozing, snooze you lose, right? If you snooze, you're telling yourself, I didn't mean to wake up at this time. I'm just tricking myself. So I'm going to stay in bed for a little longer. And taking cold showers, there are some health benefits. It's a way to kind of boost yourself throughout the day. And that just translates throughout the day. So those are the kind of the elements of the 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up podcast is more for individuals, just getting through depression. Depression's high in the U.S. And then the Whiteboard Wednesday is more for corporate and how they engage their audience.
No, that's great. And tell us a little bit about Always Go Big Interview podcast.
Always Go Big. So as I learned more about podcasting, like from folks like yourself, I wanted to incorporate the interview. The 4 a.m. Daily Wake Up is more of a show. And I wanted to do the interview. And I wanted to interview those that use video as a part of their storytelling. So today I'm interviewing Jade Vincent. I would highly encourage you to check her out. She's got 1 million followers on TikTok, and she is coming on to LinkedIn. And so how you use video and storytelling, and how has that impacted your business? So the guests are either they have reached a mark where they've gone big, or they've got these, like me, I'm going to have 3 Oscars by the time 2030. And I haven't done one film yet, right? So I'm thinking big. So guests that think big or have already achieved that are the guests on that podcast.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Don't forget, I'll take the invite to the Chinese. Is it the Man's Chinese Theatre where they still give those out, or the Hollywood sort of theatre or something? So I'll come and be your chauffeur for the evening when you get that there. And I'm sure you'll do it because listen, I'm a big believer. One of my ultimate heroes is Napoleon Hill. From that, I like a lot of the original type source people, Dale Carnegie, Maxwell Maltz, people like that, Napoleon Hill. And, it's about that going big. You've got to believe you can do that. And if you don't believe you can do that, and, Napoleon Hill talks about always imagine yourself in that position already because it's going to fuel the growth. Grant Cardone, as we know, talks about, 10xing things out. And, you want to do 100K this year, well, set a goal for 1 million and whatever it would be. And, it's not for everybody, that aggressive stance, but I'm with you all the way, I think, because even if you fell short of 3 Oscars and got 2, it's still an outstanding result. Tell me, I just really want to dig down a couple of points,
Sure.
if I could, Troy. First thing, you've mentioned on a couple of occasions sort of the pitch free close. Now, we're going to cover that in some of the questions later on, and also the story selling. So, I want to move them out there. But I really want you to tell me about the work that you're doing at the public school. I do some volunteering for HSBC Bank in their Young Enterprise Scheme. I'm a mentor for Doncaster 100, our local authority, where I go in and help small businesses mentorship on volunteering. And I find it so, what's the word I'm looking for? it's so pleasing. I get so much joy out of helping others. Yeah, it's totally free. We get no, you're giving up your time. I'm not necessarily doing the low hope, high truancy stuff, because the HSBC Young Enterprise is really for the school leavers going into college where they're learning business studies and things like that. But I'm really enthralled, and maybe say totally off script here. I'd love to learn more about what's the impact you're having for these people, because sometimes all they need is a bit of hope, and that hope can break that cycle, whatever that is, bad family, abusive family, drug, or whatever, it doesn't matter, and it may or may not be relevant there. But just tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there, because I think that's a fabulous commitment, and I'm so pleased that you do that.
Yeah, so I grew up on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I was a skinny, white, poor son of a preacher man. And when you're skinny and white on the Big Island, bullying is, you're bullied all throughout, right?
Yeah.
And so I take these stories that I've encountered as a student, dyslexia, ADHD.
Yep.
And I have two messages in the public school system. One is for the teachers, and the message is entertain us.
Yeah.
And when you come in with a mindset of an entertainer, different from a musician, you are looking at how the audience responds. And so come in with an entertainment mindset to keep some of these, because you cannot teach just to the dyslexics. No. You can't teach just to the smart ones. You can't, they have to learn more than you have to teach.
Yes.
And Walt Disney coined it the best about he would rather, entertain to learn. He'd rather you learn through entertainment. And so it's just a stick your way. The other message is to the students. And with the depression rates are rising. Suicide is rising fast in this country. The only two things they can relate it to are social media and smartphones.
Yeah.
That's it with our young people. And so I tell them about the foundation of being happy. It's a balance. And you have to know what you do today. For them, it's easy. You wake up, you go to school. That is what you do. You have to remember where you've been. And you have to remember where you're going. So when I have a tough day, I think about one of the movies I'm going to make. That's what gets me through it. And I tell you what, as a public speaker, there is no better training ground than 150, 200 middle schoolers that you have to keep their attention.
They're going to give you a hard time otherwise.
They're going to give you a hard time. And so I'll tell them I'm on TikTok, and I'll tell them different stuff like, I'll ask them a question, what is a professional? And really, they don't know what a professional is.
Yeah.
Finally, we'll come around to a professional is someone that gets paid for what they do. Otherwise, it's a hobby. And so I ask the students, do you get paid for being a student?
No.
And they're like, no. Well, who's the only one that gets paid in the classroom? And they all start looking at the teachers.
So did it.
They point at the teachers. And I ask them, I say, so when you go to a show, we're in Vegas, if you go see Copperfield and the show sucks, is that on you because you weren't paying attention? Or is that on the entertainer? And so it's just like you said, let's change the perception of who holds the burden of responsibility for learning. Yeah. Is it students or is it teachers? And that's kind of the message that I give. And I tell you, Mike, the teachers don't get offended.
No.
They really don't, because I'm speaking truth. And it's just a great time. I do about 10 to 15 a year at the public school level. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing. No, absolutely. And the uniqueness, I touched on it. And when I'm talking about uniqueness, listeners, I'm not talking about uniqueness. I'm talking about uniqueness. So, just expand on that a little bit more. I know we've touched in and around the awareness, but how did you come up with uniqueness? What an awesome brand. And by the way, you're not using it as a hashtag. And I wondered why.
Yeah, it's not mine. It's actually not mine. No, it's not mine. And my wife loved it. Someone actually got the domain of uniqueness. And here's where that came from. Like I said, do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I cannot cite the source right now.
No, that's fine.
There was a DNA expert that identified or revealed that in order for you to have a doppelganger or have someone exactly like you, the odds are 300,000 billion to 1. And I don't even know how you write that number. But what I tell these students is that when your parents tell you that you suck, or your teachers are bullying you, whoever it is, you have to know that there is no one like you. Yeah. And this DNA expert has shown it. And so I have them all stand up and I say, repeat after me. there is no one greater than me. And they say, there is no one greater than me. And I am greater than no one.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that we have, because
it's amazing.
In this world, we live one or the other. You've met the people that live by, there's no one greater than me. Kiss my ring, kiss my finger, right? They're arrogant. Yeah. They don't have the balance of, I am greater than no one. And then you have the other side where they live like Eeyore. Oh, woe is me. Murphy is my best friend. Murphy's Law is always, and they don't have that I am greater, there's no one greater than me. So that ability to have it both is the balance that we should seek as a human species, in my opinion, is to have the confidence. And I tell these kids, I say, here's what I need you to do. I expect 3 things from you. 1, I don't expect you to pay attention. They're like,
what?
2, I don't expect you to respect me. And they're looking at their teachers, and the teachers are kind of like getting uncomfortable. I say, I have to earn that.
Yeah.
I don't expect that. I earn that. And I said, what I expect from you is take your hoods down, put your phone away, and sit like a king. And what's amazing, Mike, is they all, when I say sit like a king, I don't tell them how to.
But they just all rise.
They do it. And I tell them, millionaire starts between your ears.
It does.
You want to be a millionaire? It starts today.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And I'll tell you what, if you're set out there as a business, it doesn't matter if you're a 25-year veteran and, you've whatever way, you're not quite where you want to be, you're just starting out. That advice that Troy's giving is absolute gold. It is self-belief, but being humble with it as well. And I remember the first time I had a pretty bit of a success. It was in the mid-90s. I started a business at 24. We exited out at 27 and 3 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've done a 6-figure exit. I'm not even 30 yet. Look how awesome I am. And, all these other losers around me. And I wasn't quite as aggressive as that, but, you kick a lot of people on the way up. And sometimes when you I found to my cost, because I had a bit of a travesty then in between that and the next one. And when you slide down that pole, you get kicked twice as hard on the way down. So just be a little bit more respectful, be humble, and have that belief inside, like as Troy says there, millionaires start between the eyeballs or between the ears. And it's inside you. You can do it. It doesn't matter at what level that you're doing it at. You've got to start somewhere. And that is absolute gold. Thank you for sharing that, Troy. It's been amazing learning sort of about your backstory. And before I go into some more about target audience engagement, tell me about your dream about the films. Are you an action film guy? Are you going to be taking on Dwayne Rock Johnson? Are you are you a sort of a psychological film? Have you got any movies sort of? Obviously, this only goes around the world, so it's not confidential. But is there anything mapped out? Have you got an idea as yet? Where are you in that journey? Because I'm a big film lover myself. Love true crime. Love detectives. Love silly comedy like Wayne's World and stuff like that. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about it, and let's dream out a little bit.
Sure. Well, the company is 4X Entertainment. Yeah. And so I'm a faith guy, and I'm not trying to convert anyone, but I do believe in the God of the Bible. Absolutely, and so forth. And so faith-based film is turning a big profit in Hollywood. And one of my problems with faith-based film today is it's too much agenda. Yeah. They focus on their message more than the story. And if you follow the examples of Jesus, he told a story. If you didn't get it, he didn't try to convince you of it. He didn't try and convert you of it. He didn't say, oh, please follow me. He just told stories. Yeah. And so I think there's an opportunity, like 2 of my movies, I have 27 listed out that I'm going to produce. 2 of them are horror. And my mother, how can you do horror? I say, I like horror, and I don't know why you can't have someone being chased by some Jason figure and they're just praying. They just have me praying to God, like, help me, save me. Yeah. And so a lot of it's indie. I like the indie. I like the deep character. So Breaking Bad, where the character development is so, you just become part of that. And my song,
it becomes part of your daily life, doesn't it? You go to the work the next day. You're speaking to your buddies out at the social, or you're watching a game, and it becomes part of. Hey, did you see that, or whatever? Or you're waiting and you're building up to the episode, and then you debrief afterwards. It becomes part of you, and I get it. It becomes very not addictive, but very enthralling because of those stories. And I get it. It does. So you're going to push too horror. You're going to push some faith-based up there. You're going to push. Tell us a little bit more.
It's a 4X universe, quite frankly. And the first, and they're not in order, but I have a timeline, and it goes from before the beginning. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Before the beginning, when Lucifer and Michael were best friends, it's a story about the betrayal, and then it goes all the way to Armageddon. Only Armageddon is in a sci-fi. So my timeline is just spans throughout, and then each movie will kind of have a little bit of an Easter egg about some of the others. A little bit, very subtle. Not because I hate agenda in church. I hate it in politics. I hate it in work. And that's what my bosses, when I was a W-2, what I hated about it is that, I tried recruiting. I thought I'd be a great recruiter, like Jerry Maguire for tech. And what the big contention was, my boss would say, you work for the company, the client that hired you, not the candidate you're trying to recruit. And I said, are you kidding me? The candidate, I know what they want. Why would I try and put them in, round in a square pen, the whole thing. And it was a big contention. So I don't like agenda. I'm anti-agenda. My dad, my brother's in church. I cannot be in the ministry because I can't get in. I can't do the bureaucracy and all that. So storytelling is my way of doing it. And people will come up and say, oh, I want to introduce you to someone. And I'll say, just wait. When the timing's right. And that goes back into what I'm going to close with, the 3 points, is when you know where you're headed. Yeah. When things come in, you'll know if it's not the right timing. So I'll end this section with this. Anytime music or storytelling or event, I'll come to someone and I say, hey, let's do this. Let's do this together. And if they say, because in the church, well, I need to pray about it. I'd say, okay, never mind. When you're ready. I don't want it. Because if we're truly walking with God, it would be an answer to prayer. When you have that call to action. So I'm very, very sharp in mastermind or finding the right type of people that you're with, because they strengthen you, right? And it just, you get going, like you just shifted. Tell me about your film, right? And that's the type of individuals that I like to surround myself with, as opposed to, I need to pray about it. Okay, never mind.
It's something I talk about, reaching up. I do it all the time. I'll try and reach as high as I possibly can to connect with and learn from the people who have either trodden a different path or been more successful, even failed in different areas, because ultimately it's about surrounding yourself. Big believer in the faith as well. To me, the family side of things, the faith type of things, the self-belief, but not from a cockiness or an arrogance point of view or an obstinate point of view, but a self-belief that I can help somebody and move forward, a big believer in altruism, things like that. And I think when all that lot comes together, the stars align. And I think that's not just in business, but in personal life, about adding, building good family relations, good commercial networks, and, just sometimes, holding your hand out and helping somebody up when everybody else has walked past. And, I would challenge you. This is not a faith-based show or a family-based show. It's a business show ultimately, but they play such an important role about, treating human beings as you want to be treated. And, I'd love you to sort of help me understand, how have you helped somebody today? Shoot me a message, leave me a comment below. Just use the hashtag #TheOpenMic. And, what did you do without any expectation of wanting anything back? What did you do to help somebody today? I'd love to be able to see that. And, I'd love it to, if it's a great story, let's feature you on the show and let's talk about how you do that. So that's amazing, Troy. And, good on you as well, and pat on the back to you there, because, what I love about this, and this is what I think all the entrepreneurs as listeners will love, is there's a dream here. There's a goal, there's a dream. And, for a lot of people, hey, I want to produce films. That feels like maybe the astronauts in the late 50s and the early 60s, we're going to go to the moon. It's like, hey, well, there may be 400,000 people pushing towards that goal, but ultimately they achieved that and came back, if that's what you believe, and things like that. But you've got to have a dream, you've got to have hope, and wherever you are in that cycle. So if there's anything I can do to help you achieve that, you let me know. I've got a client who is one of the ex-people who Barefoot Wine, you know, the people in the States, Michael and Bonnie Harvey, we interviewed them on the show, and they're all connected to the Hollywood film scene with Ed Asner, the Lou Grant guy who's voicing their audio book and things like that. If I can ever help you, let me know. I'll get you connected.
I will. Awesome.
So let's talk more then about target audience engagement. As business owners, we need to do that. There's some great stories that you've mentioned there in the background. And when we talk about engaging your target audience through that personal brand, would you say that's for everybody, or is it for, have they got to be ready for it? Have they got to go looking for it? Just tell us a little bit more about that, Sir Troy.
Well, I've created this audience wheel where you've got your A audience. That's more of who your customers are. Yeah. You know who they are. They're advocates for you. And then as the wheel grows out, you have a layer of B audience. Yeah. And the B audience, maybe they're former customers of yours, or they're real close to becoming customers of yours. Again, you know who they are. They know who you are. And then you've got your C audience. And your C audience are the prospects that you know that you've maybe bought a list or you've created a list, yet they have not, there's no connect, there's no talking at all. That's your C audience. Now the D audience is unknown. Yeah. And how you bring in your unknown, and people talk funnels and so forth, it can be whatever it is, however you describe it. What I call the D audience is the ones that you grow organically and through, I believe it's through video. Yeah. And it's through a smartphone, and it's not commercialized, and it's not produced. And people will say, well, I'm not good on camera. Fantastic. Then you're going to be better than me. Because the greater level you suck, this is what I tell the kids, the greater you suck, the more inspirational you are. Because when people look at me on my Whiteboard Wednesday, I close with this. My name is Troy Ritchie. If you don't know me, you will. Yeah. And I do that, you know, some people will be like, oh, you're cocky, right? But I do that for two reasons. One, someone's going to watch my video and go, who does this guy think he is? I mean, he's just talking common sense. Who does he think he is? Right around the 2-minute mark when I say, my name is Troy Ritchie. And the other person is saying, wow, this is really good. I don't know who is this guy? Right around the time I say, my name is Troy Ritchie. And so I tell folks, I say, if you suck and you keep going, people can look at you and go, this guy's a joke. And then they see you again. They see you again. And they see you again and again. And finally, they're like, dude, this guy doesn't quit. I can do this. Yeah. So every time I inspire someone, they send me messages all the time. Troy, I'm doing my first video. It just gives me joy, Mike. Yeah. Because I'm not, you can't be salesy in the video, right? This is from Shay Rowbottom. Yeah. No sales in the video, oversell on your profile. Yeah. Right. And so that is that method that works. And it's all about, I think Gary Vee says that people that worry they're going to over spam their followers with content, they're really worried about the 15 people that follow them religiously. Everyone else is just going to see it for the first time. Yeah. So quality of content, if you're ugly, you're probably going to get more views, you know. And then my buddy wrote a book called The Ugly Advantage. And it's so true. In today's world, authenticity wins.
It does, absolutely. And do you know what? If you want to sort of see a real life example, this is by the way, this is not rehearsed. You want to see a real life example of you suck, and getting better and getting better and getting better. The first 10 shows of the open mic, they're absolutely woeful. I was actually going to delete them and make episode 11, episode 1. But Jamie, who you met earlier, our show, the producer, said, leave it there. Shows how we progressed. Now we interview, people like Troy. We interview leaders in the field, TEDx speakers, all these sort of, A-listers in the business world. And I'm thinking like, I hope they don't go look at the first episode 1 to 10. But we leave it up there. And, like you say, but we're dedicated, we're committed, we see it as a public service. We just about, obviously this show's just going out just before Christmas 2019. And we start season 5 in January. It's like season 5. How did we get here? But yeah, when you look back, that is so true. And don't be afraid to picking up. I mean, Troy will talk to you more about this. Please connect with him on LinkedIn, and sort of engage, and head over to troyritchie.com, see some of the amazing work that he's doing there. But ultimately, the ugly videos just on an iPhone,
right.
No production, they're going to connect because you're not trying to be anybody else. You're just there. Quick tip, I don't know if you use this, Troy. It's something that I was taught by Dennis Yu, the Facebook guy at Bliss Metrics. Hold it at 45-degree angles, hold it vertically, get the real estate, and just talk to the camera and whatever. As long as you're doing value, as Troy said, no sales, give the value out there and just keep it going. And
it's always for the benefit of others.
Absolutely.
So when you think about because people will say, well, I don't have time. Troy, I don't know how you do it all. And it's like, if you don't have anything to say, then don't do it. Yeah. Because that so what the idea of the audience is that audience is going to creep closer. And this is where people start saying, oh, you're just describing a funnel. Yeah. Maybe. The audience, you don't know who they are. They're coming to you on their time.
Yeah.
Produce content. And I want to brand you to companies. Let your employees. When I ran a sales team, I told my employees, I want you to do a blog a month. Blog a month. Yeah, I said, just write it. I'll edit it. I'll turn to a story. I just need something from you. You're going to post it on your LinkedIn profile. If you're not getting hit up by recruiters, I want to know why. I wanted my sales team to be hit up by recruiters because I want them to stay with me or go better opportunity. And that mindset with business owners, if they're listening, if you empower your employees to generate a personal brand, that you will generate more sales. Yeah. The risk is they'll grow their personal brand and leave, but now you can launch them off with your blessing and then bring in someone else. And that, I just think everyone needs to tell a story through video.
It is. And you talk about the storytelling through video. There is so much, what I would call what to do out there, Troy. The skills, the expertise that you have. Tell us more on the practical steps that somebody would maybe go through if they're just getting started. So maybe they've not seen Shay Rowbottom, maybe they've not followed your content, maybe they've been in a cave and not seen Gary Vee or whatever. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to know those people. But if they're saying, I do want to start and I am going to give it a go, and I don't care if I'm ugly or it's unproduced or whatever, what would be sort of the practical steps for them to start telling their story through video?
Yeah, the first thing is when people tell me I'm not a good storyteller, I say, yes, you are. You're not a good storyteller to strangers. And that's the difference. Is it any person, no matter what intelligence they are, if they're with their buddies, they're talking story. In Hawaii, we call it talking story. And it's very natural. It's very organic. So the fear they have to overcome is when the camera comes on. We have to find, and so sometimes when I'm coaching, I'll ask them a question. And in their answering, I'm recording their answer.
Yep.
And so this is the thing is, don't overthink it. It should not be heavy. And you should have something to say. And in your something to say, if you just, you want to, I'm a big believer, Mike, of micro content.
Love it.
And so my daily podcast rarely goes over 5 minutes, 6 minutes at the most. And the videos, if I film it in landscape, it's going to be more of maybe a minute and a half. Yep. If I film it in portrait, it's more of emotional connection. And so there's a strategy there. Landscape's more professional. It's always going to be more professional. And the Instagram or the TikTok where it's a portrait mode, that's more you and them, right?
Yeah.
And so the content that I have, if it's a little more like a Whiteboard Wednesday, or if it's a little more like I'm going to speak into your life, turn it landscape, go get subtitles. If it's more like, man, what is going on today? I tell you what, my most viewed video on LinkedIn is me in a basketball jersey, putting my shoes on in front of a basketball court, and it's 20 seconds, it's turned portrait, and I said, I feel like I'm the oldest content creator on LinkedIn. Can Shay, Sam, and Jackie please tag those that are older? And they did. And it went to 8,000 to 9,000 views or whatnot. But it was grainy. The audio was poor, and it was in the portrait mode. So, and this is the advice that I tell everyone: is that a month before you start producing your content, follow hashtags on LinkedIn that you find value in, and comment on their post. Don't post and ghost, right? Comment on their post. And then while that month that you're commenting on theirs, put together 12 videos from your phone. Because people get so excited. They record one, they post it, they don't post another one for 2 or 3 months. Yeah. The LinkedIn algorithm recognizes a consistent content creator. So store up 12 at a time and then drop 3 to 5 per week.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's how you would do it. And so a lot of times I'll tell this to people and they'll be like, I can't do that. Well, if you say it, it's true. So if you keep saying you can't do it, you're right. So let's say I can do it, and let's not overthink. And this is where me not being so smart works to my advantage, because the really smart ones are like, no, I have to include stuff that is really, really impactful and it wows them. And I said, no, that's YouTube. And if you want to go on YouTube, then do a 5 to 10 minute lecture. Go for it. Do that as well as part of your personal brand. On LinkedIn, it's a minute, maybe a minute 30, and just share from your heart what you're thinking of that day. Dumb it down a bit, and then just go from there.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the reference. I'm not sure if you were making the same reference that I understood. So if I'm slightly disconnected, I apologize. But, you said there where people say, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah. Troy said there, whatever you say you can or can't do, you're probably right. And I think that originates all the way back to Henry Ford. If, if whatever you say you can or can't do, you're probably right. So if you're going into this with a defeatist attitude or a negative attitude, I love the fact where Troy would give us his best your impression earlier on was like, and that's amazing. If you're watching this on video, you've got to see that because that's fantastic. But yeah, just go into it and, share it from the heart. Think about it. We were talking about film earlier on, and we don't have to talk about this, but what would you do? You go into the office. Hey, did you see the show last night? Hey, what did you think to the the season finale? Didn't they leave that on a cliffhanger? They're talking. It's not scripted. It's not there. Just imagine that's on a camera, whether it's straight on. You put it down near your bag, like Troy's doing his basketball court thing, or you've got it at 45 degrees. It doesn't really matter. But if it's impactful, it's from the heart. It is what it is. Just get it out there. Build that personal brand. You can do this. And there's a lot of people sat there saying, and here's another thing that I want you to call me out on. How many times have you sat there on LinkedIn saying, oh yeah, I've seen Troy, I've seen Shay, Mike puts a podcast out every week, a fairly well documented, and these are recorded, weeks and sometimes months in advance. So that's how it's banking up, all the time. And if are you sat there thinking like, there's far bigger people like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and all these greats out there who are doing far more content than we are. But how many times have you sat there, guys, and said, oh, they're putting that out again? Well, at what point are you going to stop saying, oh, look, they're putting that out again, and start saying, hey, I'm going to join that club? And you got, like Troy said right early on, you got to start somewhere, and wherever that is. And don't sit there and be a bystander or and watch it, because guess what? The opportunity is going to pass you by. Get involved. Show people your expertise. I guarantee you have got something important to say, and some people will listen. And if you're serious about it, connect with Troy on LinkedIn. Go and check out, maybe do the Brand You course if you're unsure to start with. You can pick him up on LinkedIn. Head over to troyritchie.com. There's speaking events, there's courses on there, but it's just going to help you anyway, because that's what we're about. We're about moving people forward. And if you like what we do, great, get involved. Right. Leave us a message, but please head over to Troy's site, drop him a message, let him know you came through the open mic, and ultimately start moving that forward. So thanks for sharing that, Troy. On the point of, I know we touched on this in the school element about mastering yourself and getting started, but that self-mastery of who you are, and we touched on the the brand you and things like that. Would you say in today's economy that self-mastery is critical, or how important is it in today's economy if you want to go this way? Are you beating yourself if you don't do it, or I'd love to get you inside sort of track on that.
Yeah, I think it's not a matter of should I, will I, or whatnot. It's something that you have to do. We're designed and created to move forward, to push forward. And the only way that you can push forward, the alternative, and you're a Napoleon Hill guy, is the drifting. I just read Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, it's amazing. What a book.
Did you like it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I actually read that about 5 years ago on a plane to Phoenix. It just come out. Did you know it was held in a vault for like 60 years?
38. It was written in 38. Yeah.
Yeah, written in 38, but it wasn't allowed to be released while any of the living descendants of Napoleon Hill's family was there, because rightly or wrongly, please don't here to judge, but it's very critical of the school system. It's exceptionally critical of the faith and how that is. And he didn't want to have the negative feedback while it was live and things like that. But what a book, Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he talks about drifting. Yes. Drifting is the sin in his opinion, or in his book, and I tell you, I'll just say as a side note, it was hard for me to read because I know the devil is a father of lies. So everything out of his mouth I'm like, well, this is a lie. He could have outwitted someone else. Anyway, so the idea of drifting and I don't think daydreaming. I don't think daydreaming is an effective course. I've done it my whole life growing up, and just my head was in the clouds. I think that is detrimental to living with intent. And in that way, the book was talking about the devil just gets us to drift. And all of a sudden wake up, we're 60 years old, or maybe we're 40 and we hit midlife crisis. Yeah. And so being intentional, and that's why I do the showers, is because it's hard and I don't want to do it. And I'm telling myself, or I only eat fruit until noon, except on Saturday. I ate a big breakfast. And it's because if I don't, I'll balloon up to 300 pounds. I like to eat. And so all of these things about discipline, and I'll tell you something that's not popular, and I get a lot of views on it when I say this. As an audience engagement expert, and I'm going to coach you, how do I get as close to 100% of the audience as I can? It's impossible, but how do I get as close to 100% of the audience as I can? Stop using profanity. Yeah. And all the content creators are like, ooh, well, Gary Vee's my hero. What? I say, you know what? That's Gary Vee. I don't necessarily buy into that. He is losing a section of his audience. It is human nature. You're going to offend someone that is not used to the language like that. So as a strategy, use self-censorship and then cut it out. It's not, there's this thing now that I'm being authentic if I use profanity. And I just don't, I don't see it that way. And so having that as a self, and the thing is, self-mastery could be your janitor. Yeah. And you're cleaning the toilets better than anybody else. Yeah. And that level of pride, what you do, that it's essential. It is not even, if it's not, you will be lonely, you'll be unhappy, you will die young. It's just not even a question. You have to always push forward and grow.
Yeah, that's great. And, on the profanity side, there's another great story here from Zig Ziglar, which I'm sure you'll be aware of Zig. He used to speak at the Speakers Association every year, and they came up to him one day and said, hey, Zig, you've done the last 5. Look, we think you're great, but, we really could do like mixing this up a little bit. And like Zig was really honored that he said he's great, but he was a bit, annoyed that he wasn't going to do this. So they said, hey, could you recommend somebody? So Zig said, here's a handful of people who may want to come in. Yeah. So what do they do for the keynotes? They asked them to provide a video. This one guy that Zig actually recommended did a sort of short sort of piece of his video. He sent it in, and they looked at it, and they went back and said, you know what, we thought the content was great, but they said, we're not going to book you. Yeah. The guy goes like, whoa, I've been recommended by Zig Ziglar, and wow, does it come any bigger than that type of thing at the time? And the association sort of turned around and said, well, the reason why we've not got to book you is because you swore in your video, or you put profanity in your video. Mm-hmm. And the guy turned around and said, it's okay, I'll take it out. Yeah. And the association, and this is what's absolutely the point is, and the association turns around and said, well, the reality is we were looking for somebody who didn't put it in the first place. Mm. Mm. And to me, that is the most powerful thing. I mean, I did a keynote for digital marketer, Marcus Murphy, down in London in June. And, I'm sort of saying, hey, and this, and somebody will go bleep. And Marcus mentioned to Jamie afterwards, oh, he can swear if he wants. And James said, he won't do that. You won't do that, because it's just not what I do. And like I say, for every, F-bomb that Gary Vee does or doesn't want to drop, that's his style. That's what he wants to do. That's up to him. Yeah. It's certainly not for me. And
just let me say, I'm not judging.
No, absolutely.
All I'm saying is, as an audience engagement coach, just know if it's part of your strategy to use profanity, you are losing a portion of your potential audience. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm with you. I agree with you also. And for me, I'll go one step further. I suppose ultimately it's my show. I can say whatever I want to a degree. I'm telling you, if you want to put that in there, you're going to turn a lot more people off at the serious level than what you would do, because there is only so many people who can pull it off. I think we hear so much burnout with Gary Vee and things like that, and that's great. I would not argue with him or anything like that, but it ain't for me. I certainly wouldn't buy off it if
you would have him on as a guest, I imagine.
Yeah, we would have him on as a guest, but it's how do you clean that up? Because we are a clean show. So I would, but what I'm saying is, to me, I wouldn't ever create my content. I wouldn't ever do that on that baseline. So, I know Troy's been very diplomatic there, and we're giving him a hand out about not just me. I'd rather not, and I'd rather go somewhere. We all slip up occasionally if we crack his finger with the hammer or something like that. But ultimately, my advice is look at the content creators who are doing well. Ask yourself a question: do I need to put it in? Should I take it out? It's up to you. Just ideas. But the great thing about entrepreneurship, we all have these different views. And as Troy said there, if it's your strategy and it's part of you and you're authentic, you pull it off, and that's your audience, then, good luck to you. But yeah, it's an interesting take. But I'm with you all the way, and I support you 100% on that. And I'll go on record saying that because, the Zig Ziglar example, guy maybe he'd have got a gig with the major speaker association, and the fact that he wanted to take it out, but they're saying, I'd rather you didn't put it in the first place. So always think about the consequences more than the bravado, if that makes sense. But, just a view. Shoot us a message, use the hashtag #TheOpenMic. Let us know if that's part of your strategy. Now, this is a great part, and I'm really excited to be digging into this part. You've used the terminology, Troy, story selling.
Yes.
And pitch free closing a few times before. And I was eager to dive in and really sort of unearth that earlier, but I knew we'd got to discuss this later on in the show. Yeah. Tell us why story selling techniques and pitch free closing, why it's so important. And, and maybe just if you could give us a couple of examples about how that works.
Yeah. So we are an informed consumer and or an informed customer. So coming in as the expert, and a lot of times the consumer or prospect may know more than we do about what the solution can do. So I read this in a book. First off, story selling is not mine. It was a book written by two Hollywood producers and how they pitch their scripts. But I like the idea of transitioning from once you get better at storytelling, you're coming into story selling, and story selling is telling stories with a purpose to move your audience, right? Yep. The idea of the middle six in the pitch free closing is that no matter what you how good or bad you are at selling, 2 out of 10 are going to buy from you. They're going to be enthusiastic about it. 2 out of 10 are not going to buy from you. So you never want to craft your presentation, your value proposition to those 2s. You want to focus on the middle 6.
Middle 6.
The middle 6 is who you're focusing on, because they're only going to buy based on your ability to sell. And what drives me nuts about the greatest profession in business, which I think is selling, is that people say, and these solopreneurs will say, I hate selling. Well, if you hate selling, you will not sell. You have to embrace selling. And what they hate is the pitch. No one likes the pitch. Selling, the root word of selling, is to serve, from the Greek. It's a service. And a lot of this is Zig Ziglar talking. You're serving your customer base. So pitch free closing has 3 types of story selling. And in the pitch free closing model, the discovery, and you get into the 5 W's, who, what, why, when, where. Yeah. That's important. In fact, if you have identified that you are not a match with your prospect, do not go into the value presentation of the sales cycle. Just say, oh, you know what, follow my content or go to my blogs. We're not a good fit. Yeah. Now, there are 3 methods within the pitch free closing model. One is flank selling. Yep. And flank selling is when you're telling a story and the prospect across the table is thinking to themselves, where is he going with this story? Yeah. And then you close it. So it's almost like you evaluate with the left side of your brain, you buy with the right side of your brain. What you do, and everyone starts out, I've got my shield up and I'm, and so as you're telling a story, that has nothing to do, or what they think has nothing to do with what you're selling, the right emotional side is going to flank the left side of your brain, and then they're going to buy. Flank selling. Yeah. It's a very fun method. I'll finish with a story on flank selling.
Yeah.
And then there's pull selling. And pull selling is one that says, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, I've identified, you're right. We are not a good fit. Yeah. So thank you for really bringing that to my attention, that we're not a good fit. No one likes rejection. Yeah. And so the response is going to be, wait a minute, what? Yeah. And you're going to say, no, we're not a good fit. You're not a good customer for me. And if it's genuine and not a play, if it's genuine, then they will either become your customer or give you a bunch of referrals, because you've identified that, you know what, I'm going to have you go to my competitor. They're a better fit for you. And you don't do it as a jerk. Yeah. You do it as in an authentic way that you've identified the match is not there. It's right. It's absolutely helpful. The third is champion selling. Yeah. Champion selling is the closest to a pitch, only you've already identified, because a sales pitch is defined as a canned presentation regardless of the situation. Elevator pitch. You just blah, 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 right? Yeah. And so champion selling is when you get someone with an EC personality, very short, they just want the information. Yeah. And champion selling is you on your soapbox and you just tell them why they need to buy your product or service based on what you have identified in the discovery, right? So because you've earned the respect, you've earned the right, and they say, you know what, I don't think we're a good fit. You can say, hold on. You said you needed ... And I told you that I provide ... I firmly believe that I am the only solution for you. Now with that conviction, that emotional part of it, that's when you get into the close. But that passion is what can really turn a sale around. And again, the three only work if you've identified the match. Do I have time for the story? It's a great story.
Of course you do. Absolutely.
Great story. So I was Philips Healthcare, global company. We had just finished phase 1, and it's related to pulling data, converting it to information so they could tell their story. And my dad had at the end of phase 1, I was going to go in and get them to buy phase 2 of the, it was a consulting firm, business intelligence and so forth. And at the end of phase 1, my dad had a cardiac arrest and was dead for 45 minutes. We prayed him back. And as he's in the hospital, he's plugged into all these machines. And so I'm sitting in the hospital. Oh, by the way, locally, a little tip on sales. I used my outbound calling using the telephone at the hospital. When the caller ID comes up for hospital, everyone picks up. They pick up right away. Anyway, so I'm sitting in my father's, he's in a coma, medically induced coma for 11 days. By the way, now he travels across the country and tells his story about, that's my first independent film, was Dead for 45. I tell the story. It's on YouTube if you find it. And I'm sitting in this.
We'll get a link and we'll put that Dead for 45 in the show.
Just don't judge the quality.
No.
Quality is iPhone.
Trust me, go and look at my first 10 video podcasts.
So I'm sitting in this hospital room, and my dad is plugged in all these machines. And guess what the machines were? They were manufactured by Philips Healthcare. Yeah. I saw Philips. So when I went into the closed meeting to get them to buy for phase 2, I told them a story about my dad dying, and the owner of the company sitting next to me, and nobody knows what the heck is that I'm talking about. The head of operations for this branch in the Seattle area, he's starting to well up in tears as I'm describing the story. And I said, all the machines were Philips. And I said, I'm not here to close a deal to make some commission. I'm here to help you choose us so you can save more lives.
That's absolutely amazing.
Of course they bought. And as we're walking out, my owner says, that's a ballsy move. And I said, move? What move? I was telling, it's a true story.
It's a true story, yeah.
And I saw Philips Healthcare. And that's the problem with selling in today's world, is it's a game. And we're trying to manipulate. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. No. You identify if you're a match. If you're not, you say, thank you very much. I'm going to go somewhere else. And that is what truly will increase.
Yeah. And you'll win far more business than you would ever lose. It's really, really funny. And thanks for sharing that story. We just came, at the point of the recording, we've just come back from Holland or the Netherlands, and we've been out to Eindhoven. And Eindhoven is where Philips was started.
Oh, wow.
In the 1880s. If you follow European football, and that's the real football, Troy, the round ball, not the throwing ball. But a lot of my American listeners will be giving me some grief on that. But, the soccer, there's a team in Holland called PSV Eindhoven. And, the story that you just give there is so relevant. It's so relevant for us because you saw Jamie early on. He collects football shirts from this. When we travel around the world on business, and even when he goes residential, he collects a football shirt from every city or closest city that he visits. And not all cities have a football team, so it's maybe the next biggest one. And if you look at in the Netherlands, in Eindhoven, it's a town built out of the late 1800s into the 1900s on the Philips brand. They put a factory there. They built a village around it. The football team, why I mentioned PSV Eindhoven, you can check them out, P for Papa, S for Sierra, V for Victor, PSV Eindhoven, actually translates to Philips Sports Union of Eindhoven. And it was an original pitch that the workers at the Philips factory making the light bulbs, not the healthcare stuff, but they started with the light bulbs, they wanted recreation. So Philips as a company created a field or made a field or sectioned it off out of the village. And that grew to football posts and then other things. And now there's a Eredivisie, like a League One, a top flight football team called PSV Eindhoven, European champions twice. And we did a stadium tour when we were out there. Jamie got the shirt, you saw that there. So that story there, even though it doesn't remotely come up because the Dead for 45 is so, like I said, what I love about it is, let's just go back to Troy's story for the moment and the relevancy of it. Is that it's not the Dead for 45. It's not the sales. It's not this. It's not that. It's not the ballsy move that the sales manager was suggesting to Troy. What it has is made a connection, an authentic connection that Philips Healthcare saves lives. And that happened to my father. That's what he's saying. And, like you say, how powerful is that? Wow. So thanks for sharing that and that connectivity of story to real life, to representation. A little bit like I just said, you happen to see Philips. I've just seen Philips for a week in Holland. It's like Philips this, Philips that, Philips here. Every TV in every hotel were Philips. It's every conference system was Philips. Every door system was Philips. The only thing that weren't Philips were the elevators. They were Mitsubishi. But literally, you get it and you connect, and that's a story that people remember and such a powerful. Yeah. So pleased that your father's okay as well. So that's amazing. As we wrap out of the show. You mentioned about the 3-to-1 rules of email marketing. The personal brand, the video. Where does email marketing and the 3-to-1 rate? Where does that come into that? And what should the listeners be thinking about when you're covering that?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of times this comes up where, well, Troy, what is it that you do? Are you email marketing expert? Are you a sales guru, a personal branding? If you think about it, Mike, it all relates to audience engagement.
Yes.
The email, the video, all of that is related. That's the platform or method to get to the audience.
Delivery mechanism,
Right. So email, remember we talked about audience wheel, the A and the B. And the number one way to engage A and B is through email. I've worked at an email marketing agency. I'm a writer and so forth. The 3-to-1 rule is very simply, for every 4 emails you send out, 3 should be about them. 1 should be about you. And most email, especially solopreneurs, so I'm targeting solopreneurs and coaches. Most of them, every email they send out is a pitch. It's a marketing. It's a call to action. And they'd say, well, email doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work if you're sending it all about you. 3-to-1 is 3 pieces of content about them. Well, I can't produce that much content. Okay, I tell you what, find a blog from someone that you enjoy and then highlight that blog, even though you didn't write it, and then send it out for your target audience. That's something that they can take and it will benefit them maybe that day, that it can improve their work life. Or a holiday email. One of my latest Whiteboard Wednesday was on this. Thanksgiving was coming up here in the States.
Of course,
Send an email with a funky recipe.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, you never want to include the entire article in your email. You want to have a click through to a blog or a LinkedIn article.
YouTube
and then what
video,
you want to
whatever
do,
you want to do, yeah.
Yeah, you call the ones that clicked.
Yeah.
Call them up and you say, hey, I'm just checking in and this and that. And that's how your follow-up. So a lot of times for us, you don't want your talent cold calling. You want your talent to be giving the value presentation. So you hire someone for 10, 15 bucks an hour. All they do is call the clicks. Well, Troy, I don't have a lot of clicks. Let me look at your content. Oh, it's all about you.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Let's make it about them. Well, how do you do that? And what frustrates me is that when people say, what do I do to do that?
Yep.
Here's the how, Mike, is that start thinking about how to do that.
Yep.
Just by that shift in mindset of their perspective, just by the shift of that perspective, you will see the world through their eyes, and that's how you generate the content.
Yeah.
And then on the fourth email, all about you, baby. You say, get this offer and do this, and then the next three, and they will look for your articles because they know it's going to give back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, do you know what? I love that there. I've obviously, Jamie, who you met, he runs a HubSpot agency. So we're all about digital. We're all about email, content, things like that. I love that piece of advice. What I want you to do is back up, pause it, hit the rewind button a minute, whatever you want to do, wherever you're listening and watching. Think about that there. Obviously, not only is it about your audience, how are you helping them? If you're struggling with content, pick an article that you've read yourself, link them in, say, hey, I saw this article. Look, I think it really helped you. Let me know how you go. Bang. But the key message there, is make sure it's about them, not you. But call the clicks. Call the clicks. What does that look like, Troy? Is it something like, hey, I noticed that you clicked through and read that article. Did you find it important? Is there a script? Can I ask you to just relieve a little bit of me? Is there a script around that or whatever? That is dynamite. That is awesome because from an email marketing perspective, hey, I just send it out and, people go, what's my open rate? Right. And, how do we make that better? But good old-fashioned sales, call the clicks. I love that. Thank you for sharing it. That's amazing.
Yeah, you will grow 20% every 90 days if you do this. I've seen it. And what's funny that you say what you said is I don't have the courage to say, I saw that you clicked on my email and read my article. I usually say, hi, this is Troy with such and such company. And they will say, oh, wait a minute. And I can hear in their voice that there's some familiarity. They're familiar with the company or whatnot. And it's through the content that they digest. My wife had to help us. I was at the startup a few years back. My wife had to help us. She hates cold calling. I said, don't worry, just use the script, call on these clicks. That's all I want to do to set appointments. That's it.
Yeah.
And she called on it, and I said, it was her first call. And I said, don't worry, they're not going to pick up. Let's call Hawaii. They're not going to pick up. The lady picked up. And so she turns and she throws her pen at me, and I'm like, oh. I said, I point the script, and she goes, hi, I see that you clicked on our email and read our newsletter, and she followed the script, and she put that intro, and she booked the appointment.
Amazing. Get him. Strike out.
Yes.
Home run.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
If you have the courage, you can say, I see that you read, but it gets a little big brother for me.
Yeah, no, and there is about that, and there's so much tracking these days, and people for privacy policies. Great point. Thanks for highlighting that. But that is absolute dynamite, Troy. I so much enjoyed it. Thanks for sharing your journey. This, even if we're just talking about audience engagement, just this podcast alone, look at the stories that we've shared from our experiences, from books that we've read, the gurus that we follow, whether it's Napoleon Hill, the book for Outwitting the Devil, the Zig Ziglar stuff, Troy doing this public school and really bringing that back. The story about the shower and the show. This is all stories. It's stories that, are we selling anything? No. Are we giving a public service? Absolutely. Should you go over and check what Troy's doing? Absolutely. TroyRitchie.com. Go and check that out. Before we wrap out of the show, and you head off to your Christmas holidays, could we sort of summarize? There's so much value we've delivered, Troy, so thank you so much. But I'm a big believer if we could try and even condense this down to sort of 3 pro tips. Yeah. If I'm sat there as a growth-focused entrepreneur who's maybe wanting to increase my target audience engagement, what would be the 3 things that we'd sort of put in as Christmas stocking this year? Yeah,
it's related to present, past, and future. And what I talk to the kids about is the what and the where of who you are. So the first tip is, what is it that you do?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't bring you joy, then don't quit your job.
Yeah.
Align yourself with activities, and there's a balance there on what you do. Should be three things. One, it should be your primary source of revenue, whether it's a W-2 employee, whether it's your business. Yeah. That's the number one thing. Then the second thing is your side hustle. Yeah. You need to have some sort of side hustle that you run, little project. Maybe it's for your local church or whatnot. You run that project. You're in charge. The first thing is that W-2 primary source of income. The second is a side hustle. Maybe you start a podcast, whatever that side hustle is. The third thing is volunteering, and volunteering not in a leadership role. When I volunteer for the Clark County School District, I'm not in charge. I show up and I do what they tell me. And oftentimes they tell me things that I'm like, they haven't been reading books. That's not the right way. But I do it anyway because it humbles you. Yeah. So the side hustle keeps you hungry. The volunteering humbles you. Go clean toilets for a week for your local YMCA, whatever it is, soup kitchen. Yeah, whatever it is, where it's just that's the what you do, right? And then you want to remember where you're headed. Yeah. But Troy, I don't know where I'm headed. Then start thinking about that. Where are you headed? Think about the future, because when those bad days comes, the curveball comes, you want to put your hope into something that of your future, of what your future is. Well, someday it's going to be like this. Naysayers are going to say, show me now. You're just a blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter where you're headed. You know where you're headed and where you've been. Yeah. You've come out of the past when I was bullied and so forth. And when I have a hard day, I know where I'm headed and I remember of what I've come through, and I'm going to be okay. Yeah. And John Maxwell writes this in a book where it was really eye-opening for me because I was off balance. He said 90% is present. Yeah. It's that what you do is your focus, 90%. 5% is where you've been. 5% is where you're headed. Yeah. Mike, mine was way off. I was like 90% where I'm headed. I had to focus on the what I do, and and this was like 3 weeks ago. I had this breakthrough. I did a Whiteboard Wednesday on it, and I'm like, I need to get back to more what I do. And it's been great these last 3 weeks.
No, it's amazing. And that's fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed learning from Troy as much as I have. As I say, head over to troyritchie.com. Check him out on LinkedIn. Go connect with him. Drop him a message. Thank him for his time and the value. Troy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I've thoroughly enjoyed learning from you, sharing stories. And I've learned three key things that I can take back and use in our business. Call the clicks being the major one for our sales team, which is, I know it's simple. I know it's great. That's the standout moment for me. Use the hashtag The Open Mic and let us know how what you've learned out of this show. As you're heading into the festive season and the Christmas holidays, it's a great time for reflection at year end. And I'm hoping this podcast has certainly helped you understand where you're at, what you need to do. And thanks again, Troy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Open Mic show.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's Merry Christmas. Yeah, absolutely. So as always, we appreciate you not only just doing your growth engine development, but thanks for sticking with us throughout 2019. We've got more amazing guests like Troy coming in 2020 as we go into season 5. As always, we appreciate you doing your growth engine development. Go to the hustle. Go make it happen. Have a Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And we're going to catch up with you on the next Open Mic podcast real soon. Take care. God bless.
You have been listening to The Open Mic, brought to you by The Success Hub. To find out more and to get the resources we have mentioned in this podcast episode, simply visit blog.thesuccesshub.io and view the podcast section. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next episode. This podcast and associated materials is published under copyright to The Success Hub. All rights reserved. No reproduction of this material is permitted.